Well, my name's Dan Murphy. I'm a criminal defense lawyer based out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Today I'm discussing Premier Smith's latest, I guess she's under fire from the NDP opposition party. The issue being whether or not she interfered or intervened in prosecutors' work as relates to COVID-19 protests at Coutts, Alberta. On two occasions, the Premier indicated that she did, in fact, have conversations with the prosecution service, but later said she used imprecise language. Now, to date, which is a fact that has to be known, no correspondence has been produced. The CBC stands behind the fact that there is such correspondence, that it exists. But the point is, we had this issue last year with the Minister of Justice, who intervened in relation to a traffic ticket and called the police chief, is that the justice system must remain independent. So can't have politicians pushing their agenda through independent bodies. Independent bodies include police, and independent bodies include prosecutors. They exercise their discretion in whether to lay charges and whether to proceed with charges. And it shouldn't be up to the Premier, who's kind of the top of the ladder in the province, or any of her ministers or any of her staffers to intervene in that system, because it compromises the system. Essentially what you're doing is effectively having the justice system be subject to the will of politicians, and that is not what the justice system is to do. That's not what the justice system was designed for. And in fact, the roles of police and the roles of Crown prosecutors are carefully defined by the courts, and also by rules which even Smith's recent minister indicated they understand that they are not to intervene, that in no shape, way, or form should the Premier or a politician be involved directly with the prosecution service. There's routes of communication, Minister of Justice, and going on down the chain to eventually have conversation with the prosecution service, but it should not be done at the first instance, and it certainly shouldn't be done to interfere or to adjust the nature of the prosecutions. This fundamentally affects defense lawyers and how they handle their clients, because if there's no independent prosecution service and prosecutors are being told to push cases forward or to withdraw cases, whatever the fact may be, it's simply not appropriate, and the result is injustice. Persons who don't even know that there's a political mechanism above their head which is deciding how they will be treated are affected. Defense lawyers who are entering into what seems to be an independent system, but in fact the arena has been affected by politics, again, compromised. So whether this is true or not, the allegations are very serious, and Premier Smith, one can hope, did not make the foolish mistake of becoming involved in a prosecution, an act of prosecution, and did not forward her political agenda through the mechanism of the prosecution service. And likewise, it's hopeful that the prosecution service, if they were approached, addressed this appropriately and asked that she not interfere, and they would handle it on their own. And it certainly should have, if they were approached or if anyone was approached, reported this immediately, as it is interfering with the administration of justice. It's a criminal offense. Casey Madu, who was the previous Minister of Justice, was accused of the same thing over a traffic ticket. This is by far more serious. So this needs to stop in Alberta. The independence of the prosecution service and police must be maintained, just as judiciary. These are sacred roles, and the only way the justice system works is if they maintain their independence, can exercise their discretion properly, and this is the way in which defense lawyers can effectively forward their client's agenda without the interference of any parties, and only dealing with those who are directly involved in the matter, which are the prosecution service and provincial court at the first instance, and King's Bench beyond that, and at the final instance, the various courts of appeal up to the Supreme Court of Canada. All right, that's all I have to speak to today. If anything emerges about the Premier and her involvement in affecting or interfering with prosecutions, I'll be sure to update everyone who listens and watches. Thank you. Take care.